Good morning on a Wednesday. Welcome into Five Clubs. Great to have you with us here on Golf Channel. And of course, you can listen, and please do. That is Channel 92 PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM. I'm Gary Williams, and this program, as you know, is brought to you by Century Insurance. How do you insure your business? If you're wondering, is it insured properly? Best? Don't know. Well, you can find out because Century will be right by you because they solve all the issues, all the problems, and all the concerns you might have. If you have business insurance needs, they're the answer. You got needs when it comes to grips, we all do. Golf Pride provides more options, the best materials through the bag. That's why they are trusted by the most players at every level around the world. And Peter Millar, it's layer time. Yes, it's also Halloween, but it is layering season. So if you want this Lawrence wool shirt that I've got on, or this wool crew neck sweater I've got on, lightweight, or this Bingham Performance blazer, you can have it all, and you should. Probably not in a medium, but you can get it all at petermillar.com. They are the premier lifestyle brand. That's why they have more than 40 retail stores, and it is why they are the leader in the industry. All right, it is our getaway day. Halloween is Friday. I was sharing photos from some Halloweens past before the show. Some you'll never see. One you might see before the end of the program. And by the way, just a programming reminder that when we're done, not immediately after we're done here at 9 a.m., but they've moved up the final round of the East Lake Cup. It's going to conclude today in Atlanta, and you can see there the match play final between the men and the women will begin at 11 a.m. And with that being said, a couple people who are part of that broadcast who are really immersed in amateur golf and college golf. Now, with respect to John Cook, John still does a number of PGA Tour Champions events, but he was one of the best college players, not just when he was at Ohio State, really ever. And Brentley Romine, when it comes to saying, please tell me a little bit about this person, he'll tell you a lot about that person and every other member of every team on the college landscape. So I'm excited to chat with both of them. As I said, coverage moved up 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 o'clock on the West Coast for the final round of what has been kind of a standard bearer when it comes to when college golf started to dot the programming grid on Golf Channel periodically throughout the year. And I always thought it was a good thing because you get live golf in the middle of the week, plus you're also getting players who not long after they're in college, you're going, I remember him and I remember her. And yes, they are good, really good. So we're going to talk to both of those gentlemen here over the course of the hour. We got dogs to end the program, as we always do on a Wednesday. But one thing we wanted to quickly revisit as it relates to last week. Look, it's good fortune that we could arrange to have a number of the top designers who design golf courses, restore golf courses, renovate golf courses on this program. When we will do it again. But if you miss those programs, and we've gotten a lot of people who have chimed in on social media and also on our YouTube channel, that's Five Clubs Golf. So if you miss those shows and you want to watch and listen to those conversations, you can do it. But just to give an idea to everybody of the different projects that we addressed during Design Week, and you can look at Gil and all of his properties from a couple in the state of California to right there in the state of Texas, Childress Hall, that rocking chair logo, to High Grove in Venus, Florida, and then of course historic Seminole and the restoration work he's doing over the course of a couple of seasons, Tyler Ray, Detroit Golf Club, where the Rocket Classic is, Ansley outside of Atlanta, Old Sawmill, his new golf course north of Charleston, and I can go on, Mountain Lake, another historic Seth Rayner right there in Lake Wales, Florida. And then, of course, Andrew Green, Charlotte Country Club's renovation restoration, his Kawanu Golf Club property outside of Greenville, which is brand new. And then, of course, King Collins. We had Rob Collins on, the Bounty Club outside of Nashville. And then Purebred Farm, he broke the news that new Kohler property, that short course, it's going to be 14 holes. They're doing that, plus the Ambush course at Marcella Club. And if we left this country, he gave us great detail on the second golf course that they're responsible for at Historical Royal Dornick. And so with that, when you look at that map, we understand that overwhelmingly those projects are private golf courses. And we've had a lot of people who've reached out to us saying, what about having, designers of public golf course? We're going to do that. I can promise you early on in 2026. And when you consider retail golf and where it is in this country, from all the projects that Dream Golf has, and obviously Bandon Dunes was a true game changer, and they keep adding assets to every time you go and have any experience at Bandon. It's like we got something else, whether it's a restaurant or Shorty's or the range or whatever it might be. And obviously Sand Valley and what Cabot Properties and Ben and his team is doing at their various properties as well. But when you consider the upper Midwest and you consider the upper peninsula of Michigan or the state of Minnesota, Utah's on fire in terms of what we saw this past week on the PGA Tour. And of course, the state of Florida, it's not just private golf courses, it's also a place like Streamsong, which I was living in the state of Florida when that came out of the ground, and whether it was the red or the blue, and subsequently after that it was the black, and now you've got David McClay Kids Golf Course that is being completed there, the chain and the short course there. And I went back to Streamsong, and I can promise you, I'm only sharing all this because these experiences are so good. Their policies, their procedures, their staff, their service. This stuff is why golf in America is flying right now. So early on in 2026, designers of public offerings and also some of the owners and operators of some of these great retail golf experiences that we all have an opportunity to take advantage of. And I didn't even mention the state of North Carolina and all that you have in the Sand Hills of North Carolina. I can go through them all, and obviously the Pinehurst Resort, but also Mid Pines and Pine Needles and Southern Pines and Tobacco Road. My gosh, we got a lot. So we will do that. So thank you to all the people who weighed in and reacted, and also we're not only chiming in with us, but we're getting, and we appreciate that Tyler Ray is responding to questions that are being asked by viewers and listeners. That's the kind of stuff, that's the type of engagement that is going to drive interest in all the work that he is doing. And he's not doing it specifically for that. He loves it. He loves the conversation. All right, we're going to take a break. We got dogs at the end of the program. I'm going to share a little Halloween photo with you from days gone by with one of my great teammates of all time. I saw that yesterday. I went, okay, we got to figure out a way to get this on. But Brentley Romine is going to join us next. His thoughts on what we have today in the finals at the East Lake Cup on the women's and men's side, but also bigger picture as we get to the end of the fall season. And by the way, the Jones Cup, which is at the beginning of January, we may try to be involved in that in some way, that great amateur event down there at Ocean Forest at Sea Island. So stay tuned for news on that. One other thing about public golf, Nebraska's on fire. Landman. I'm just going to say that, and just stay tuned. Stay tuned. And also stay tuned for Brentley Romine from Golf Channel. He joins me next. His thoughts on where we are kind of midway, but also specifically final at the East Lake Cup today, and a little bit later on, a bigger picture conversation about the evolution of amateur golf, college golf over the last 50 years with one of the best to ever do it, John Cook. Great to have you with us. It's a Wednesday. Yes, as the days get shorter and we think about falling back on Sunday when you're going to feel like we're living in Siberia for the next 4 months, where it's dark when you wake up and it's dark and you feel like you want to go to bed at 5:15 in the afternoon. With all that being said, it is a Wednesday. Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio Sirius XM. We're back with you right after this. It is Wednesday here on 5 Clubs. Thanks for making time for us here on Golf Channel, but also if you're getting in the car, it is PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM, and this segment is brought to you by Golf Pride. If you just happen to look at clubs being pulled by the best players in the world, overwhelmingly they've got Golf Pride grips, but more importantly, at your club. Overwhelmingly, it's Golf Pride grips. They're trusted by the most players at all levels. We appreciate them being a part of what we do here at Five Clubs. All right, joining me now, love to get his perspective because he does his work and he knows this landscape expertly. And apparently he's coming off a win on a Sunday. That is Brentley Romine of Golf Channel. He's part of the broadcast team for the East Lake Cup. You're already on site. You guys have been pulling audibles left and right all week long because of the weather. How you doing?
Well, Gary, thanks for having me on. First of all, we're all cold, wet, and I think everyone's taking some sort of medication. So forgive the voice; it's a little scratchy, but we're going to power through. We got one more day.
It's one of the great clubhouses to have to maybe hunker down in or wait through a weather delay because you can learn a lot about golf history. Every corner that you turn, there's something. I know you love that place. Give everybody an idea of why it is that place has gotten to you the way that it has.
Well, I think you touched on it too. I mean, you go in the front door there and you make a right and you're in the captain's room and it's a nod to the Ryder Cup and there's all these artifacts. There's, a bust of Bobby Jones in the bottom, and then you go upstairs and it's almost like you go back in time a little bit. So it's sometimes when, we pull late nights here at these tournaments, and if you're one of the last ones in this clubhouse, it could get a little eerie, but I think that's a good thing because, the ghosts of Bobby Jones and the ghosts of golf's past are definitely alive and well here.
No doubt about it. Before you and I talk about this final today with the men and the women, I want to ask you a question about some of the things that have been changed. Mark Brody is very well respected in terms of the information and the type of data that he provides. College golf is better understood now than it was 10 years ago. Give everybody an idea of some of the challenges that they're facing as it relates to rankings. And specifically, I think you were sharing with me last night, there's one particular program that's not particularly happy.
Yeah, well, we could be here all day talking about this, but kind of long story short, a couple years ago, the NCAA contract went from GolfStat to a company called Spikemark, which was created by Derek Freeman, the former UCLA coach. That ended up being sort of a Fire Festival type deal, didn't get off the ground. The lava didn't come out of the science project volcano, if you will. And so Clip took it over. They developed a site called Scoreboard. Mark Brody was tasked with doing the rankings, and it's a change because for years we've had a head-to-head stroke differential, more of a Jeff Sagarin type formula, and now you go to points-based, where teams are ranked based on average points, and also with the strokes gained flavor that Mark Brody created, decades ago. I feel like over the course of the last few years, coaches have better understood the rankings. One coach in particular has even figured out the formula, but that's how we got to the point where we discovered that this season, the women's committee voted to basically have a guardrail. I've affectionately termed it the Brody bumpers, but they pop up when you win by too much, when you exceed your expectation by too much. And so Arkansas, they host a tournament on their home golf course, Blessings Golf Club, which is extremely difficult, and they play better than anybody. And for years, coaches are like, well, this isn't fair. They're getting all these points. Well, the only way to solve that is just to play better, not to arbitrarily say, Arkansas, you're not good enough. We're going to dock you 60 points. And that's exactly what has happened. So have heard that there are some very unhappy people in Fayetteville, and perhaps the NCAA may be hearing from them shortly. But yeah, I think all in all, I actually like the rankings, especially on the team side. As we get closer to April, we get more data in there. But I think there's just so much PTSD with everything that's happened with the transition to Scoreboard, errors in the rankings. We had a club team in the Division I rankings last week. So the quality control isn't where it needs to be. But I think if we can get that part right, as you said, Mark Brody, a super smart guy, I think his way is kind of the way forward for this sport.
For people who have maybe been watching the East Lake Cup for years, I was lucky enough with Golf Channel to be there for the event one year, and it was great, and it's neat. but it's a small field, so you would say, well, this is nice and it's boutique-y. But in terms of the value, and it might be something that these teams just take back for themselves, that this is a very important win, because I think part of it is, as an outsider, format, but also quality of field. Give everyone an idea of how much this means to these teams.
I kind of like that word, boutique. I'm going to have to steal that one, Gary. It is. I mean, 18 holes of stroke play, 2 rounds of match play over 3 days. In years past, maybe people have kind of been critical of this and how big we've made this on television. But I tell you what, if you've ever stepped foot on property here and you talk to these coaches, and especially the ones like Oregon's Derek Radley or Florida's J.C. Deacon, who have been here before and haven't had success, this is super important, and it's kind of a reward. It's almost an all-star game, if you will, for getting to the semifinals of the NCAA championship the previous season. And the players, they're treated like kings and queens here, from the service staff to the chef to the golf course, especially now, the work that Andrew Green's done there. It rained so much on Monday, and coaches were like, there were some dry spots by Monday afternoon when we were playing that 9-hole sprint. So, with Tom Cousins' legacy, the Eastlake Foundation, and for these players now, especially in the NIL era, to be able to play on television, play on a PGA Tour venue that is infinitely better than it was a couple years ago. There's just a lot of different things about this event that make it a must get to for these teams.
Yeah, Brentley, to me, look, every sport does kind of made-for-TV events based on something that transpired probably within the last calendar year. The NFL always starts his season with the defending champion taking on something. We didn't get Pittsburgh and Green Bay by accident on Sunday night. So getting these rematches from something that we may have just seen the previous spring, I think is very, very good. So with that being said, give everybody a little preview. Let's start on the women's side with what we have today and the storylines that you find most compelling, and then we'll get to the men.
Well, so we're going to have the defending national champions in this final match in the Northwestern Wildcats. And this is a team that lost their senior leader from last year, Lauren Nguyen. They lost their stud freshman from a season ago in Elise Lee, who actually plays for USC now. They beat them yesterday in the semifinals. But you add a player in Ariana Lau, who was the highest ranked recruit that Emily Fletcher has ever had, top 50 in the World Amateur Golf Ranking when she signed last November. So this is a team that maybe on paper you wouldn't expect to get back and maybe repeat as national champions, but gritty in match play and getting some of these feels back. Ashley Yoon, one of their leaders on this team, said it kind of felt a little bit like the NCAA championship yesterday. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But this Oregon team, I'll tell you, this is their third Eastlake Cup. They had never won a match before yesterday, but Derek Radley, universally considered one of the top 2 or 3 coaches in the country, and they got the best player in the world in Kiara Ramiro, and kind of a little bit with maybe a Gino Tidikun situation in terms of a lot of second place finishes in her career the last year and a half, and the problem for her has just been on the greens, the putter. But last week at Stanford, she switched to a lab putter. She gained 3.8 shots on the greens, shot 65 in the final round, finished second behind Mega Gane. If she can unlock that part of her game just a little bit more, she doesn't have to be the world's greatest putter. She just has to be average, and she's going to start winning a lot more of these tournaments. So she's one to watch out for. And one last player on Oregon, Suvi Chaya Chatham. On the women's side especially, this has been a huge deal, but LPGA Q School continues to kind of poach these top college players, and she got through the second stage of Q School. She's going to have to decide whether she wants to turn pro next month to compete for an LPGA card in Mobile, Alabama. And so right now the decision hasn't been made, but this could be her last round of college golf ever today.
Brentley, I saw J.C. Deacon in addition to yourself on Golf Central last night, and I smiled because you could tell he wanted what they got. He wants a piece of UVA, and sometimes what you want isn't necessarily what you hope to get. This is delicious for a lot of ways. I think Florida is built to like respond exceptionally well to confrontational golf. which is match play, and they got the son of a guy who made his name doing just that. Give everybody an idea of how good this final can be between Florida and UVA.
Well, it's the top-ranked team in the country, and the Cavaliers coming off a win on Sunday just up the road at the golf club at Georgia Collegiate. They get the best player in the country right now, Ben James, top player in PGA Tour University as well, two-time Walker Cupper. So he's got a little bit of match play experience. The great story of Paul Chang coming from the club team to breaking through a couple years ago and getting on the varsity squad. So this is a very professional team, and now they got a kid in Michael Lee, the younger brother of senior Brian Lee, who played his first round of college golf on Friday, ties for 9th at the golf club at Georgia, then wins the 9-hole sprint on Monday, and then went 7 and 6 yesterday in his match. And I asked him at the hotel last night. We were talking with his head coach Bowen Sargent as well, and he said he thought he could have beat Rory McIlroy yesterday 3 and 2. That's how well he played. So maybe young Michael, the confidence is certainly rolling. But the job that J.C. Deacon has done at Florida since he moved over from UNLV, but gosh, it's been over a decade now. Has continued to put the pieces together. And you mentioned Luke Poulter, but this is a super deep squad. There are players at home, whether it's Noah Kent, who was the runner-up at the USAM 2 years ago, or Josh By, Trevor Kachevsky, U.S. Junior champion, son of Scott Kachevsky, the veteran Tour Pro. There's a lot of pieces here, and when you make this lineup, you know that you're playing pretty well. And just want to highlight a couple stories here. Parker Bell, the senior, probably the longest player in college golf, could easily get it over 200 if he wanted to. He's seen the depths of that this sport can bring, and only played 2 times in the spring, beat 4 or 5 guys at Pepperdine's event. Didn't see the field after their home event in early February, but was challenged by his coaches, either figure it out or maybe you need to transfer and spend your final year somewhere else. And he's absolutely responded. He's flashed a little bit in some USGA competition, qualified for the U.S. Open last year at Pinehurst. But if Parker Bell is playing like the player that we know he can play like, this is going to be a very tough team to beat. And also pinpoint that anchor match. Jack Turner came out of Montverde, home of Cooper Flagg, a really good match play player, one of the best swings in college golf. And he's not going to be scared of anybody today, because last year at the SEC Championship semifinals, earned the clinching point against who else but world number 1 Jackson Coyven out of Auburn. So a lot of match play medal there for young Jack Turner.
Before I let you go, as we go from the late fall into the spring season, who would be your top 5 in the men's side, team-wise? Just give me your 5 best teams in your mind.
Well, you got to go with Virginia, number 1, what they've done. I think LSU probably is in that second spot. They've won a couple times. Jake Amos, second year there. Vanderbilt, talk about a deep team. Scott Limbaugh's reloaded with a couple freshmen and a transfer or 2. I still think on paper, Texas is probably the best, one of the best teams, if not the best, when you consider Tommy Morrison, Christian Moss, a little bit banged up after winning the World Amateur Team in a rout. And then to round it off, the rankings probably don't reflect this, but you got to go Oklahoma State. They're further down in the rankings because their 2 best players, Preston Stout and Ethan Fang, both played in the World Amateur Team. They finished 10th in that tournament that year. So those are my top 5, with perhaps Florida breaking in there at some point early spring.
I always appreciate the conversation. Most importantly, all the insight you give to people who want to take an interest in college golf. Enjoy the final day, the broadcast starting at 11. Look forward to talking soon enough. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Happy Halloween.
Thank you very much. You will see a Halloween photo before the end of the show. When we continue, John Cook, he wasn't just one of the best college players. He had the best hair, and there was no second place. He still has flow. John Cook, his thoughts. He's also at the East Lake Cup as well. Will join me on this Wednesday. And we got dogs as well. We got a full show, bottom of the hour, back on 5 Clubs Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio's Channel 92 right after this. Welcome back in this Wednesday edition of Five Clubs here on Golf Channel, and also Channel 92, PGA Tour Radio, Sirius XM. This segment brought to you by Century Insurance. Business insurance needs are met and exceeded with Century. They are right by you. He was right by me for a lot of years, one of the great TV teammates that I've ever had. He's also one of the great players that college golf's ever seen, amateur golf. Blackjack, 11 wins on the PGA Tour, 10 more on PGA Tour Champions. He is, of course, John Cook. Cookie, my friend, good morning. How you doing?
Oh, it's great to be with you, Gary. All is well in my world, and it's good to see your face and get to talk to you again. Like you said, we were mates for quite a while, and we had a lot of fun. Those early mornings, holy smokes, those early mornings were crazy.
And every day we look at each other like, why are we starting this production meeting at this hour? We kind of have an idea what we're going to talk about, but those were great days, great years, great teammates. Speaking of teammates, look, you have stayed immersed in college golf. Not only do you obviously do major championship golf, PGA Tour Champions, but you have been a part of all these college golf broadcasts for years and years. So you've seen all these young men and women, and everyone says, well, they're better. Are they better, John, than the players of 50 years ago?
Oh, I don't know about that, Gary. They're very good. There's a lot of really good players, men and the women. I've been covering college golf now for a number of years. I love it. I love talking to the coaches. Love talking to the players. For me, they're really good, and you can see where some of these young players are going to go on and have careers in PGA Tour or the LPGA or the LET or the European, the DP World Tour. There's a lot of good players. Those that are special, the Hovlands, the Schefflers, the Spieths, the Thomases. They're coming along. I think that they're still missing, a tool or two to get to that next level. But what you see is very impressive. Their short games are certainly very good. All of them. They all have these facilities now on their campuses or at their golf courses where it's just dedicated to short game. So I think their short games are probably a little more efficient than, perhaps everybody back in our day. But there's some very, very good players that do have some serious potential.
You started to pop at the elite amateur level, 74 at Ridgewood. As you said, you love walking in that old man, Gordon Brewer. I think he was in his mid-30s, but nonetheless, you were 16, I believe, at the time. You win the amateur in 78. You get to the final again in 79. You seemed particularly equipped to transition, and then you won in 81 at Pebble, and it's like, wow, most guys, it takes a little bit longer. I think it was Hale Irwin, it was Clampett, it was Crenshaw. Was it Barney Thompson? Was he in that?
Barney Thompson.
I don't think Barney was equipped. But was Barney thinking he was going to be in a playoff? Did Barney maybe have a cocktail?
He finished, he was the first out. It was such a mixture of guys finishing everywhere. And I think when he got to the first tee, he didn't have any idea that he was going to be in a playoff. So he was enjoying his best finish as a professional golfer there in the tap room. Why wouldn't you?
Of course. But my point is, John, like you were ready. And you also contended at Marion at the U.S. Open that year. Why were you so equipped at a young age to handle professional golf the way that you did?
Well, I was so fortunate, Gary, to learn the game from my great friend and my teacher, my mentor, my great friend Ken Venturi.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate to be able to meet him and work with him from 14 years old on, and it just was a special relationship. And I kept improving at each level. I didn't hit my peak when I was 17 or 21. I kept improving. And that's pretty much what Kenny, had in mind, was to work hard. We're gonna play hard. We're gonna work. We're gonna learn on the golf course. And so I didn't really peak, even in my U.S. Amateur win in '78. The next summer, I had a really good summer, won a number of times before getting to the U.S. Amateur and into the final against Mark O'Mara. But I had not peaked yet, and so I kept getting better and better as I kind of grew into my golf swing. I grew into my knowledge of the game. It kept getting more sharp, more sharp. And so by the time I turned professional, I still had room to improve. And that's where Kenny came on board. And, I learned a lot from my dad, Jim. He was a ex-football coach on preparation and practicing with purpose. But with Kenny, just learning the game, learning to play, being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So I kept learning that as I went on. And, I was very fortunate and had almost a 30-year career on the PGA Tour. So I'm so fortunate and so blessed to have great people in my life. But Kenny was the guy that kind of kept me going and get me better and better as the years went on.
John, you said a couple things. You talked about your dad, and you also talked about practicing with purpose. Two things. As somebody who was the son of a coach, but you were also the father of an elite junior. So you had to have the kind of role that your dad kind of looked at, and then you had obviously subsequently with Jason. What advice would you give to parents of kids who can really play in terms of this journey? What would you tell them that is the most important thing that they can provide their son or daughter during these years?
You just have to ask them if they love the game, if they love what they're doing and why are they doing it. Love to go to the golf course and practice. Love to, have a routine. Enjoy other things as well. It's not just golf, golf, golf. You'll get burned out, but you have to love the game and you have to love working at the game, learning about the game, knowing that you can get better with different aspects of the game. You never get to master this game, but you can certainly work at it. So I would first start and ask your son or daughter if they're going to love the game. Do you want to go to the golf course today? It's not like, do I have to go? Do you want to go? Do you want to go play all day? I was fortunate enough that's what I was allowed to do. When I got to the golf course, I was there all day long and worked at it, played a lot of golf holes. So you have to learn to love the game, number one, and then allow them to grow. Get them some good instruction. I think that helps. It always helps to have another pair of eyes on you when you're practicing or when you're out playing. And like I said, Ken Venturi, two of the best eyes the game has ever known. So you just have to make sure that your son or daughter just loves the game and wants to be part of it and wants to go work at it and enjoy it.
John, you just said something. I love to play golf holes. Just in your observation and in being around it, do you think kids are too wrapped up in data and not the data in the air playing golf holes?
Oh, I absolutely, Gary. I think that I never saw a sheet of paper win a golf tournament. I can promise you that. You have to understand what's going on the golf course. Kenny got me prepared to go play golf. We played holes. We played 27, 36 holes, sometimes more than that when we had a chance. And I just watched and observed by learning and watching on the golf course, getting out there, failing. And why are you failing? You have to figure it out. That sheet of paper is not going to tell you when you're out there on the 17th tee and your throat is up here and your mouth is dry and now what do I do? So that's why I played a lot of golf holes, because I wanted to figure it out there where it really counted. When you have to sign your name at the end of the day on a scorecard, I wanted to know how to get to that finish line. Kenny prepared me for that. I think that I don't like seeing the players today hit a shot on the practice tee and look down at the monitor.
Yep. I
learned to see it in the air. Watch the golf ball. How did it feel off the club head? And is it a consistent ball flight? And that would produce consistent shots. So we were our own track man. My eyeballs and my ears were my track man by watching and seeing where the ball was going under those conditions. So I have nothing against the data sheets and the guys and the teachers are teaching all of this, but get me out on the golf course and let me see what I can do when things are starting to go wrong, how I can fix them myself.
Yeah, I know that the Harmon line is the data is that pill in the air.
Absolutely.
That's the result right there. The visualization you're talking about. Were you pro PGA Tour U, John? When it was created, were you like, I support this. I think this is a good idea.
Yeah, and now that it's evolved and it's been kind of tweaked, and you really do get a sense on, and it's a nice reward for those players that stay in school 4 years or graduate school. It's a nice little carrot at the end. And you see a kid like Ben James. Ben James was a first-team All-American as a freshman. He won golf tournaments. He was going to be good. He didn't need to stay. But he is, and he's being rewarded being the #1 ranked player on PGA Tour U. If he stays there, he gets 18 months of a tour card. That's a very nice carrot to have after representing your institution, UVA, with Ben James. Now, the players that have been #1, you look at them. Thor Bjornsson, he's had 18 months, and he's had a nice little run.
Yep.
Those are the recent ones. So it's a nice little bonus. It's a nice little carrot at the end of your college career. So I am for it. It's hard to kind of break into that top 5, but with good play, and you can get yourself some status either on Korn Ferry, PGA Tour if you're #1, or PGA Tour Americas. And you saw what Michael Brennan just did. He was not in that top 10.
Right.
Going after his senior season. So he had to cut his chops up there in Canada and around, and he won 4 times. And you know what? Winning is winning on any level. And he looked very comfortable there in Utah with only his 3rd start in a PGA Tour event. He looked like he closed the deal like a veteran professional. So I think it does. I do like the premise of PGA Tour U. Now that it's been tweaked a little bit, I think it's a very viable system.
Well, why do you think when you look at Northern schools, and you're an intensely proud Ohio State Buckeye, you won a national championship, Mike Small, if you look at the rankings, all these schools are in the South, and then you obviously see the University of Illinois and the job that he has done there and the talent that he's cultivated. Why is that not being replicated by other Northern schools?
Oh, that's a great question, Gary. I think we can delve deep into it, but I think with Ohio State, Coach Jim Brown, he recruited athletes. He recruited not only good players but good athletes. And you wanted to go to an institution like that. He made it attractive to do that. That's what Mike Small is doing as well. Their facility is fantastic. Ohio State's facility is fantastic. And you're starting to see the Northern schools kind of get into that, perhaps keep some of their in-state kids, staying in state. But the attraction obviously is weather. You can play pretty much all year round in these great places, and they have these great facilities. I kind of always looked at schedule. What type of schedule do they play? Where are we going to play? I know what we're going to have during the off season and when we're at school. I wanted to see what that schedule was, where we're going to play, who we're going to play against, what time of year that is. Didn't really matter if you were on that great team. I wanted to be able to play. And I think that, with Mike Small's schedule, they play a great schedule. They play against all the best teams. Ohio State plays a lot of the best teams. So I think that maybe some kids are going to start let's go to a school where I know that if I play, I'm going to get better, but I need to be able to play. And I think that hopefully some of the Northern schools will can attract that. With SC and Oregon, UCLA, and Washington in the Big Ten, that also is an attraction. I think that'll we want to play against those great teams, against the Illinois, against the Ohio States. Now you have SC and UCLA, Oregon, always great. Casey Martin does a great job. So maybe some kids will start, entertaining the Big Ten a little bit more seriously.
Before I let you go, who was the guy you enjoyed walking in the most when you were in college? Who was the guy that was the guy if I beat him, that's satisfying? Who was it?
Well, we had four. We had four of them. Hal Sutton was one of them. And Hal, boy, he could get serious on you, and not only did he want to beat you, he wanted to beat your brains in. So it was Hal, it was Bobby Clampett, of course, and my great old friend Gary Hallberg. I think the four of us, between us all, we won just about everything as far as amateur college and amateur golf went. So we had a great foursome. We had great rivalries. It continued on to the PGA Tour. Hal, of course, went on to win, majors and players, and Bobby into television, and Gary's Gary. Just one of the great players of that time. But those four right there, if you beat any of them, you had a chance to win the golf tournament.
No question. Cookie, always great to see you. Love the conversation. Yeah. Thank you so much, my friend.
Anytime, Gary. It's great to see you. Great being with you.
Thank you. That is John Cook, and those are winning words presented by Century Insurance. Business insurance needs are met by Century. We come back. Dogs of the Week on a Wednesday here on 5 Clubs. They just make you smile. It's time for Dogs of the Week. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. It has been cold and wet the last couple of days, and I have this Winsome hybrid cardigan. It's a new piece. You can get it at petermillar.com. It's a full zip. It's like a puffer jacket with these tight sleeves. Tremendous piece for this time of the year at petermillar.com. All right, if you've got a dog, it's got a relationship with golf. Maybe you take him on the golf course. Maybe he likes watching golf. Send the photos. Dogs at 5clubsgolf.com. Let's get to our Dogs of the Week. And we start this week with Ajax, who is pictured reading greens at Lancaster Golf Club in Lancaster, Ohio. That's Jim Pullen's dog. Thank you, Jim, for sending in that great photo of Ajax. That is Wally, Sean Norberg's dog. Wally is a sheepadoodle playing a morning game of fetch before the fairway mowers arrive at Prospector Golf Course at Sunkaty Resort in Glen Ellyn, Washington. That is McGregor, Bob Isabel's dog. He's a 7-year-old Westie, walks 9 holes every Sunday at Stony Creek Golf Course in Westminster, Colorado. These are great photos of Rugger. That is David Opak's dog. A 3-year-old French Brittany loves to chase the geese at that Tom Lehman design in St. Paul, Minnesota. And finally, that is Herb. He is a 6-year-old German short-haired pointer. That is the dog owned by Bill and Carrie Bunce. And you're going, what is Herb doing in the hot tub? Herb likes to soak. And I'm not talking about for like 10 minutes, for like 3 hours. That is one great hound. All right, those are your Dogs of the Week. Send them to us. Again, dogs at 5clubsgolf.com. Obviously, this is our getaway day. Friday is Halloween. And I loved Halloween as a kid. If you did not have a pillowcase, then you were a ranked amateur. You didn't know what you were doing because you had one of those little plastic Halloween bags and you get a couple pieces. No. You had to loop and loop and loop and fill that pillowcase. Well, a couple years ago on Morning Drive, we did it for several years where we would dress up in costumes. This was my favorite costume photograph. That is Miguel Angel Jimenez. No, that's actually me. And on the left, one of the great TV teammates, one of the great people you could ever be lucky enough to work with and know. That is Lauren Thompson, who was playing the wife of Tony Romo at the time. I think she was, obviously she was pregnant with a child. That was a great day. We did that a couple times, and then Damon Hack ruined it for all of us because Damon decided he wanted to dress up as Batman. not a former golfer, and that's when it got shut down. Damon, you know it's true. That Batman costume shut it all down. All the fun was gone for all of us. All right, next week, looking forward because we've got another event on the PGA Tour. They've had some split weeks where they have been on again, off again. They're back on again. Only got a couple of them left. They go to Bermuda. They go to the RSM as well. So we will look very closely at some players who are in peril of maybe being relegated back to the Korn Ferry Tour as well. And of course, the LPGA has still got events going on. We examine that as well. To all the kiddies out there, if your parents say just go and get all the raisins, you know what you can tell your parents to do. You get that from me. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you Monday.